keep thinking there's people outside, but it's actually just the doomsicles falling and crashing onto the snow. And what doomsicles they are. It's quite terrifying to leave the house at 6:45 when it's dark and there's all these icy teeth ready to chomp down on you if you move incorrectly. Is it just me or is this really curly today? I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, this week's theme is favorite young adult author and why. And this is very easy for me to answer because there's only one young adult author that I have read all of his books, and that is John Green. I've never really been into young adult at all, mostly because I don't think I have an accurate representation in my head of what is considered young adult, but I blame that in part because other people do not have the correct representation in their head of what constitutes as children's books. Narnia is a series of children's books. They do not belong in the adult book section. It makes me want to punch people in the face. Cut that rant right there. I've already lost what I'm saying. Unable to accurately gauge young adult books because I did not read young adult books when I was a young adult. I suppose I still am a young adult, but God, I am losing all of my trains. The station is empty. All of the trains of thought are gone. Okay, so I went from reading children's books right into reading adult books at about the 5th grade. I always read a lot, so I had greater reading capability than my classmates, so I was already a few years ahead of them. I don't think there was a young adult section in my library at the time when I made the changeover from children's books to adult books. I mean, I finished all the books that I wanted to read in the children's section of the library, and then I moved on to my parents' bookshelves. So I didn't really have exposure to young adult literature. There's probably stuff on my shelves that is considered young adult, but it's under the greater heading of fantasy or science fiction, and therefore I feel like it doesn't count. I know it does, but it's such an ill-defined genre of books. Like, does Holly Black's Tithe and Valiant and Ironside count as young adult fiction, or is it just fantasy? I don't know. Also, I don't consider Holly Black a young adult author because she writes children's books. The Spiderwick Chronicles and Beyond the Spiderwick Chronicles are children's books, and anything that she writes that happens to be for an older audience just happens to be for an older audience. She writes fantasy books that appeal to children, is how my brain makes this happen. Oh, I thought I was prepared to talk about this, but apparently I'm not. Okay, we'll make this easier. We're going to discount fantasy and science fiction and historical fiction for the sake of my brain. Anything that is aimed at those between the ages of 12 and 22 that is not fantasy or science fiction or historical fiction, and even some historical fiction, it tends to be in the category of what I call teenage girls have feelings. That is my exposure to young adult fiction before reading John Green's books. I'm sorry, teenage girls. I don't care about your feelings. And those were the only young adult books that were ever recommended to me. Ever. Because all of my friends were girls in the age when I would have read these, which is like 12 to 14. So I didn't really read young adult until I'm gonna sneeze. Keep going. Until I watched The Vlogbrothers and learned that John Green was a young adult author, and I think it was just after he read the first chapter of Paper Towns that he was working on. He was working on revising it, and he read that, and I was like, you know, I might be able to read these, because he speaks very intelligently, and if he writes that way, then I might be able to get behind it. And I like that he has male narrators. I can actually relate to those narrators. I don't know what I'm talking about. John Green's my favorite young adult author because he assumes that you're smart, and his books aren't teenage girls have feelings, and I like his writing. That's the gist of this whole mess. Oh, we're gonna end this video. Ready, go. Lindsay, I will see you on Wednesday. And Lainey, hopefully I will see you on Friday because your computer is now fixed. Yay! Fixed computers are good.